The problem of witchcraft is a complex one. There's several components we need to pay attention to. First, the challenge of the past, and by that I mean coming to terms with the sources, the mentalities behind the sources, the ways to interpret those sources, and the worldviews that are reflected therein. Secondly, the way they viewed the world, cosmology, the way they viewed God and ultimate reality, theology, how they understood the world in its various historical contexts and belief systems, and what constituted reality for these people hundreds of years ago. Thirdly, the history of Satan, extremely important for witchcraft. Fourthly, the servants of Satan, the development of ideas about witches and sorcerers. Fifth, the reaction to heresy and the challenges that the late medieval and early modern church perceived. Another thing to consider very carefully are the numbers of victims. How many people were prosecuted and executed for the crime of witchcraft? And a final topic is that of gender. Men versus women, where men were more prosecuted than women or vice versa, and why were women victims in some areas but not in others. The whole business of witch hunting unfolded against the background of one of the most creative and dynamic periods in the history of Western civilization. This was the time of Michelangelo, of Galileo, of Descartes. This was the time of the brilliant age of Renaissance, art and literature, of the Protestant Reformation, of the Catholic Reformation and Counter-Reformation. This was the era of world expansion, overseas exploration, commercial growth, the establishment of centralized monarchies, and the rise of modern science. But in the middle of this creative and dynamic period of human advancement, there arose a much more grim and sinister reality. Around the year 1600, we have the testimony of an experienced witch trial judge who observed the following. He said, Germany is almost completely occupied with building fires for the witches. Switzerland has been compelled to wipe out many of her villages on account of witchcraft, and travelers in parts of France, he wrote, may see thousands and thousands of the stakes to which witches are bound. Exaggeration perhaps, but he's reflecting a reality of the times. Now, witch hunting is a fertile field of investigation, of scholarly inquiry, and collaboration. The principal definition of a witch is a person who commits a deed with the aid of the demonic. Now, witchcraft historically has been conceived by scholars as simply the survival of age-old superstitions or the worship of the devil. Others have seen it as the continuation or the revival of pagan cults. And at the outset of our consideration of this complex topic, we have to ask ourselves, what were the mental assumptions that made witchcraft possible in the early modern European world? The study of witchcraft, and by extension witch hunting, in early modern Europe is one which of necessity will take us from one end of Europe to the other, from Iceland to the Balkans, from Russia to Portugal, from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean. And witchcraft necessitates a consideration of a number of numerous topics. And so it's really an interdisciplinary consideration. Some of the topics that come to bear upon our subject include magic, popular superstitions, religion and its practices, theology, law, sexuality, gender, politics, popular beliefs, and popular culture.